Hello, and welcome back to Shamiram Media. My name is Samaria Hermiz, and I will be your host for today. As many of you know, this past Thursday, March 18th, the Assyrian New Year Proclamation reading on the floor was read at the Arizona House of Representatives. Today, I am honored to have two people who really spearheaded this effort with me here today. I have Representative Steve Kaiser from the Legislative District 15 and Ninorta Kasso, the president of the Assyrian American Cultural Organization of Arizona. Welcome, Ninorta and Representative Kaiser. How are you both?
Thank you, Sam. Doing very good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Representative Kaiser, I wanted to kind of jump right in and we read a little bit about you, and your bio states, you're a business owner here in the Valley. You are a veteran, which thank you for your service. You're a father, a man of faith. What led you into politics? I mean, you kind of sound like you have your hands full already.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And my wife would agree that I am too busy for the amount of mental capacity I have, probably. But really, my interest and love in politics really came from my mom, actually. So growing up, we were always talking about politics at the table, watching it on the news. And that really derived from my mom and her interest in politics. And then that turned into getting involved in student government, and then getting involved as a volunteer in college, and then a volunteer wherever I lived. I was always involved in my community. So that's kind of a good precursor to somebody that wants to be involved in politics, is somebody that wants to be involved in their community. So it's just kind of evolved. When I moved back to Arizona after Georgia, living in Georgia in the military, just got right involved with the Republican Party and was a precinct committeeman, voter registration chair, did a lot of the grassroots stuff for years. And then this year, the timing just seemed right. And so I ran for office. So I'm lucky that I own a business, and it's at a point where I don't need to be in the business every single day. I've been able to promote a couple guys to be managers so they can run the day-to-day to afford me the time to do this. So definitely a lot of time.
That's great. Yeah. And I remember when we had met, you said, now is the right time. It just seems like the right time to get involved now, which we're so thankful for, because, subsequently that led you to meeting with representatives from the Assyrian American Cultural Organization of Arizona, specifically Aturaya Bityonadam and Ninor Khabyar. Can you tell me a little bit about that meeting? How did you guys set that meeting up, and what transpired?
Yeah, it was a great meeting, and actually found out that Ninorta actually grew up in the neighborhood that I live in right now, which is really kind of talk about a small world. So it was really fun to realize that he grew up in the same neighborhood that I live in right now. But just great guys. It's really, I would really encourage everyone to find out who the representative is and set up a meeting. Call our assistant. That's the best way to set up a meeting, because our emails are just a complete disaster right now. So if you email us, we're never going to see it unless you tell us, I just emailed you, look for my name, and then you can find it. Otherwise, it's just totally lost. So call the assistant. You can find it. It's really easy on azleg.gov, and request a meeting, an in-person meeting with your representative. And that's exactly what happened. So we met together. We had a great time talking, probably half an hour. And we built a relationship from there. And that's what politics is all about. You have to have a relationship with your representative if you want them to represent you, right? So you can call them up and say, hey, this bill's coming through. I'm really concerned about this and this, or I have an idea for a bill and I'd like you to run it. And that's been really exciting, because I've actually been able to get one bill through signed by the governor that came from a constituent just like that. So it's not easy to get a bill through. It can get killed a lot more ways than it can survive.
Right. Well, that's amazing. And we're, excited to have had the opportunity to have met with you. So I'm going to take this back over to Ninorta. Ninorta, why did your organization choose Representative Kaiser? Was it because you guys had a relationship with him, or, were you the constituents of his district?
Hmm. Thank you for that question, Sam. It was a little bit of both. A lot of the members in our organization do live in Legislative District 15, so that does have something to do with it. And then also, we had built a relationship prior to. I know Representative Kaiser mentioned that we met through Senator Nancy Bardo. I think it was in October, November. So we had already established that relationship with him. So when you do have that relationship built with your representatives, then it is a little bit easier to build on that foundation and continue to communicate with them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ninorta. Representative Kaiser, before we jump into the actual Assyrian New Year proclamation reading, could you just briefly go over the difference between a proclamation, a resolution? What's the difference? Because I know a lot of people talk about that, and I just wanted you to address it.
Sure. So a resolution, you'll see it'll look like, HCR, SCR, and those actually go through the entire bill process. So they have to go through committee in the House, then rules committee, then floor of the House, and then it goes over to Senate committee, Senate rules, Senate floor. And then if nothing's changed, then it goes up to the governor's office for signature. And then that SCR or HCR, depending on where it starts, House or Senate, that actually goes to Congress just as saying, hey, Arizona thinks this. And it's like a statement to Congress. It doesn't have any impact or law. It's more of a statement. A proclamation is something that we're pausing at the House. You can see pictures of the House right now. And we're reading a proclamation to honor someone or something and to dedicate a time and space in the state of Arizona to that subject of the proclamation.
And what specifically moved you when Ninor and Aturaya presented this with you? What kind of moved you to move forward with this?
Well, I'm a huge history buff, and I am fascinated by. I was an exchange student 3 different times growing up in other countries, and I've always been fascinated by other cultures and history, especially. And so when they talked a lot about the Assyrian history and culture, that really resonated with me. You have an amazing history, one of the longest histories of any population group in the world. So it's just fascinating, and it's just honored to be a part of that. Senator Bartow is a big mentor for me. I've known her for over 10 years. I knew she was involved with your organization as well. And it was just an honor to support your organization in any way I can, because everyone I've met from your organization has been incredibly kind and gracious. And on top of that, your relationship with Nancy and then your history is very, very moving.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know we are going to play a video of the proclamation actually being read, but we did want to present you with the opportunity to read it now in its entirety, if you can.
Sure. All right. This is the legislative proclamation honoring the Assyrian New Year. Whereas Assyrians, a Semitic people who also identify themselves as Chaldeans and Syriacs, are the indigenous people of Mesopotamia who have lived in the Middle East since ancient times, including what is today Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria. And whereas collectively there are more than 600,000 Assyrians in the United States and tens of thousands in Arizona, and whereas the Assyrian New Year is a celebration of spring, rebirth, and renewal, which begins on March 21st and is celebrated for 12 days. And whereas on the first day of the celebration, priests would divine the name of the new year by interpreting omens from the god Ashur. And whereas in modern times, having lost its religious significance, Ka B'Nisan, day, which coincides with April 1st. And whereas Assyrians are a proud and resourceful people who are productive members of American society and enrich American culture by contributing their talents in numerous fields, including accounting, aerospace, agriculture, architecture, and its arts, education, engineering, finance, medicine, motion picture and entertainment, and politics. Therefore, I, Representative Steve Kaiser, invite the members of the Arizona House of Representatives to join me in proclaiming that March 21st through April 1st, 2021 is known as the Assyrian New Year.
You know, I've heard it before, and I was actually there when it was read in the very beginning, but every time it's read, I mean, you just still, it's so exciting to hear. And I remember when the group of people who had attended walked out, and Ninorta asked, it was actually right in the beginning when it was read, and she asked, so, you know, how do you guys feel? And everyone said, I don't know. I just feel so proud. I just can't
Mm-hmm.
believe that the Assyrians were mentioned, and I just feel so proud. So, really, it's so moving to hear it time and time again. I want to take this actually back to Ninorta. Ninorta,
Mhm.
why March 21st, as he had mentioned in the
Mhm.
proclamation, and how did you go about drafting this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Assyrian New Year starts on the spring equinox, which is the beginning of spring. So I know there is a lot of debate with a lot of scholars in our community and there is a video by Dr. Nicholas Algilu that was posted by the Assyrian American Association of San Jose, talking about the dates, and a lot of that does get lost in translation because it is such an old tradition, dating back over 6,000 years. So, in terms of the specific date, we looked to what California had passed. Our colleagues in California, the Syrian community there, had passed a similar proclamation in 2019. So we mimicked the wording of that proclamation to match this proclamation in Arizona, because our goal is to send a unified message for all proclamations that passed to mimic one another from state to state. So that is kind of why we decided on that particular date, March 21st through April 1st.
And why was this so important? Why an Assyrian New Year proclamation? I mean, it's already a
Mm-hmm.
celebration. So I know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we moved to Arizona in the 90s, and there was an Assyrian
Mm-hmm.
community, and Chamnisa never went on, like, not celebrated aside from COVID. But so why is it so important to bring this forth now?
Mm-hmm. Um, and to your point that we celebrate Chab Nisan every single year, whether it's a parade. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm used to a big, huge parade on Assyrian New Year Day or that weekend. So it's a big, big, big celebration. I know other countries, Australia in particular, do festivals and picnics and parties, so it's a huge celebration for us. But one thing that we wanted to do this particular year because of COVID was to kind of think outside of the box. We can't really have those parties or those picnics or those parades. So we thought, okay, maybe having governments recognize the Assyrian New Year, um, that is a great way to spread awareness and educate others about who the Assyrians are. Because every time we do host a party or a parade, I mean, parade does get a lot of outside community members to learn about the Assyrian community and to learn about the Assyrian New Year and our traditions and our culture. But this proclamation is a way to expand that and to grow a little bit more, so it's not as internal just for us, for the greater Assyrian community, but for everybody else to kind of learn about it.
Right. And this I feel like happened fairly quickly because the organization had announced that they will have billboards placed throughout Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
specifically more so Phoenix, which is where most of the Assyrians do live here. And And then everyone got an email saying that the proclamation is going to be read on March 18th. And they almost kind of fell hand in hand with one another. I mean, the proclamation was read, and then everyone is, posting about these Assyrian New Year billboards that they're seeing all around the valley. So, it was kind of a coincidence, but it was so nice. It was a celebration during COVID, and it was the best way to do it, right?
Absolutely. We did not like you said, the timing kind of it all fell into place. We received a text from Representative Kaiser saying that the proclamation will be read on the 18th. So we had to rally the troops to get everybody informed and ready, send out invitations and say, here we go. And then just a couple of days later, the billboards were up. So it kind of all fell into place, which was great.
Right, absolutely. And Ninorta, just briefly, can you touch on what your feelings were at the Capitol? What were the emotions like? Who was there? I know it was limited seating due to COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
just what was it like being there?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I felt I was pretty nervous. I don't know. I know Sam, you were there as well, but I was pretty nervous before it was happening because just trying to get everybody situated in one area and to go through security and go up to the hall. And I know Representative Kaiser was calling and asking, "Where are you?" But nervous at first, but then, like you said, once it started to be read, I just felt joy and just very, very, very proud of the team and just having this for the Assyrian Chaldean Syriac community was a huge, huge, huge accomplishment. And it did happen very fast. The proclamation was read at the very beginning of the session. So thank you, Representative Kaiser, for accommodating that for us. And as you can see in the pictures, we were spaced out. We wore masks. I know the gallery in itself, it's very large. It's a very large area. I think it holds about 100 people, but um, we had 15 to 20 people come from the Assyrian American community in Arizona. Although it was short notice during COVID times, during a work day, it was 10 a.m. So we do appreciate that um, all of these individuals were able to come out and hear the proclamation being read. And I do want to mention that we and thank Rasha Sargonyaru, who was present from Mariosip Church. I'm sorry, from St. Peter's Church. The Assyrian Student Association was present, and along with Mariosip Youth Group that was present as well. So I thank you to all of those that were able to attend.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very beautiful to see just the different generations, I would say. We had some elderly Assyrians there. I mean, very down to the youth there. So it was so nice to see that
Mm-hmm.
everyone is equally invested, equally involved, equally proud. It was, like I said, I mean, I can't find a better word than moving. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Kaiser, why would you say it's important to get involved, and how specifically, and I know you touched on this a little bit, but how can your constituents, I know you said they can email, but get involved, and just other states as well. I mean, that we have people from other states watching, probably don't know, where to start. What can they do to hopefully get this passed and read as well?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the important distinction is to separate the state and the federal government representatives, because it's very difficult to get in with a congressman or woman from your state. It just at that level, it's just more difficult. But the state level, state legislatures or your city councils, that's going to be much easier to get in front of them. And the first step is to either find out where their office is and try to go down there in person, or try to get the phone number to their assistant or to them specifically and try to set up a face-to-face meeting to build that relationship. And then you can exchange numbers and talk to them about, hey, and talk to them about it on that first visit too, because it's going to be hard to get visits. So you just want to, make your ask that first visit and say, this is a proclamation that's been read in several other states and cities, and we'd really love for you to do this proclamation here. But they need to see you face to face, and that's going to be the biggest difference. And I know, just speaking in Arizona, the access to state representatives is really good. We have all the limitations of COVID, and we're still able to meet in person and have a proclamation and have a great event. Just imagine what it could be like in a normal year too, right? It could be even bigger and better. A lot of organizations do a day at the Capitol with their group. So you could do a Syrian day at the Capitol here in Arizona. And no matter where your folks live, we could figure out who the representatives are, and you could visit with those representatives during your day at the Capitol. It's very common. A lot of groups do it. So that'd be a good way to go. And then really with getting involved, I found that whatever your political persuasion is, there's going to be a local group that meets monthly to talk about politics of that group. Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Independent, maybe not independent, but Libertarian, stuff like that. And so for me, going to the Republican meetings, that's where the representatives go every month. We go to brief the people that come to the meetings. And I've volunteered to go to the Democratic Party of LD15 to brief them. I'm still waiting on a call back from that that ask, but you can go to any party, and they'll let you come in and speak, because they want access to the representatives to tell them what's on their mind and tell them how they want them to vote. So really focus on the face-to-face interaction, however you can get it. Make your ask when you have the meeting for the proclamation. And I would focus on city councils too, because cities can do this as well. And then kind of just continue the relationship from there.
And I know Ninorta had mentioned, community outreach. I know the Assyrian American Cultural Organization is really spearheading more of a community outreach, starting with the billboards, but just to make the Assyrians known. There's so many Assyrians in the state of Arizona. So naturally, I think everyone's question would be, what's next? What are the next steps? Ninorta?
Oh,
I think we froze.
Are we back?
Yes. So I was touching on community outreach, Ninorta, and I mentioned that the Assyrian American Cultural Organization is really spearheading this now with, showing that there are many, many Assyrians in the state of Arizona, very active citizens in the state of Arizona. So in terms of community outreach and, with the Assyrian New Year proclamation, what are the next steps? What are some future projects that you have in mind? Tell us what's to come.
Well, that's a secret. I can't tell you. No, I'm joking. The things that we are working on, like you mentioned, is more community outreach. So expanding that relationship with different state representatives and senators within Arizona, setting up those meetings, like Representative Kaiser said, and even locally with city councilmen, governors, sheriff's department, fire chiefs. Those relationships are very important to build, especially for local organizations within your community. And one of the things that hopefully that we can work on as well, pertaining to the Assyrian New Year next year, would be either another proclamation or a joint resolution between the House and the Senate, with Representative Kaiser and other representatives within the Valley.
Thank you. Well, Representative Kaiser, Ninorta, it was an honor having both of you here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you tremendously again. Happy Assyrian New Year, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Happy Assyrian New Year.
Honoring the Assyrian New Year. Whereas Assyrians Semitic people who also identify themselves as Chaldeans and Syriacs, are the indigenous people of Mesopotamia who have lived in the Middle East since ancient times, including in what is today Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria. And whereas collectively there are more than 600,000 Assyrians in the United States and tens of thousands in Arizona. And whereas the Assyrian New Year is a celebration of spring, rebirth, and renewal, which begins on March 21st and is celebrated for 12 days. Whereas on the first day of the celebration, priests would divine the name of the new year by interpreting omens from the god Ashur. And whereas in modern times, having lost its religious significance, the Proclamation is celebrated on the last day, which coincides with April 1st. And whereas Assyrians are a proud and resourceful people who are productive members of American society and enrich American culture by contributing their talents in numerous fields, including accounting, aerospace, agriculture, architecture, and its arts, education, engineering, finance, medicine, motion picture entertainment, and politics. Therefore, Representative Steve Kaiser invites members of the Arizona House of Representatives to join him in proclaiming that March 21st through April 1st, 2021 is known as the Assyrian New Year. Dated this 18th day of March 2021, Representative Steve Kaiser, Arizona House of Representatives, Legislative District 15.